Malaysia has now announced a complete nationwide lockdown.
Malaysia merekodkan 6,400.
Malaysia is heading back into a nationwide lockdown.
The Delta variant could spread at a more rapid rate.
Varian Delta B1617.
Welcome, good evening and selamat sejahtera everyone. I am Muhammad Aniz along with my associate Serena Yap. We will be your moderator for this evening's program.
Good evening everyone, I am Serena Yap, the co-moderator for tonight's event. Bilakah kita boleh kembali seperti keadaan sebelum COVID-19? Let's find out.
Ladies and gentlemen, 18 months down the line, COVID stalks the world with no end in sight. More have died this year than last, despite more than 2 billion doses being jabbed. In fact, highly vaccinated nations like the UK and Israel are seeing stubborn resurgence of the newer variants. In Malaysia, despite some 60% mass vaccination, we still have surges of the disease and death, especially what you see now and today.
Tonight is the first webinar series that we are hosting. We shall be hosting a few more webinars in between September and October to discuss health topics and issues concerning the interests of many Malaysians and the rakyat since the COVID-19 pandemic began last year. Today's webinar title is Fully Vaccinated, Adakah Mencukupi? What else should we do next? We are facing a national and global health pandemic. It begs the question, is there an end in sight? Are we doing the right things the right way to end the pandemic? Will the rakyat be able to live not just a new norm, but also a better norm?
So these are what we will discuss today. Taking center stage today is Malaysia. We've been through lockdowns. Still cases continue to increase. We have the daily death rate, which is pretty high. New and aggressive riots are currently widespread, and this has led the country, I would say, into a bit of a dire straits situation. We, the people, need a fast and effective solution. The platform for this webinar tonight do not represent an anti-vaccine or pro-ivermectin or even an anti-government stance. We are a group of concerned Malaysians, like every one of you, who would like to focus on public health, particularly on immunity and antibody for the benefit of the rakyat, so that we can move forward together safely.
Joining us today in this webinar are prominent speakers in their respective fields. First speaker, Dr. Roland Victor, who is the CEO of the KL Sky Clinic. Now, Dr. Roland is a medical doctor and influencer with key interests in the field of lifestyle and medicine and public health care. Next, we have Dr. Wong Ang Peng, a prominent naturopathic physician and a researcher for coronary heart disease with the Dr. Raf Research Institute. He retired as a captain during service at the Royal Malaysian Army and is currently the president of Society of Natural Health Malaysia and the president of Naturopathic Medical Association Malaysia. He has also written 2 books on coronary heart disease and heart failure and has published several papers in peer-reviewed journals.
And our third speaker is Dr. Rajan, who is a health advocate for alternative medicines and mass rapid testing. Dr. Rajan is currently the CEO of Holista, a leading innovator in health and wellness solutions. Without further ado, let's hear it from the first speaker, Dr. Roland, on his view, fully vaccinated, adakah mencukupi? What else should we do next? Over to you, Dr. Roland.
Okay, thank you, Anis. Thank you, Stina. Thanks for having me in the screen today. And I think the topic, we shall just jump into it immediately and see where we need to move forward, especially as we hit the 60% and heading towards another couple of weeks, we hit the 80% complete vaccination. So we need to look into a more strategic approach. We need to look into the vaccination as well as natural immunity, and we need to look at how we can actually preserve that and reduce the possibility of variable variants that could possibly come into threat. We have seen in a couple of months how the mutation is taking place. We have to be steadfast in making sure the SOPs is practiced as we look at opening the economy, because that is the key fundamental factor as we see at the moment, because the lockdowns have been done for a pretty long time now. Back to you, Anis.
Okay. All right.
I see. All right. Talking about COVID-19 and the emergence of a new variants, could Dr. Wong brief us more on that part of the topic?
Yes, thank you, Serena. Thank you, Anis. The forum topic tonight is very appropriate. Fully vaccinated, what else can you do? What can we do for our nation as a society and as a nation as a whole? As a researcher, I read the science. I read the full scientific papers. And over the last few weeks, especially the last 2 weeks, in fact, when the science that comes out, it is really worrying. We often hear of Delta variant and variant of concern that is becoming more and more virulent. Why? We are asking that question, why? And 4 studies stood out. The Oxford Vietnam study, the Japan study, the British study, and the Israel study. All these are concerning the Delta variant, and the science is showing that the people who are vaccinated equally get infected. In fact, even more viral loads as compared to the unvaccinated. These 4 studies are pointing to all these things, and officials should be concerned. The people should be concerned. Unfortunately, the mainstream is not talking so much about it. People in the establishments are not talking so much about this, unfortunately so. And we hear of the last few days a news report that the people fully vaccinated, meaning they already have 2 doses, and 14 days after the second dose, they are also in the category 3, 4, and 5, meaning to say they are severe cases. In the past, we hear of those vaccinated, the vaccine can reduce severity of the disease. So with what we are hearing nowadays, in the last few days, it is not so. It debunks the fact that vaccine can reduce severity. So these are the concerns. I'm looking at the scientific paper. Rightfully so, we are not for this and we are not anti that. Yeah, no, we want to know the science. We want to be the science to inform us, and we want transparency. We want the authorities to discuss with the experts and the community, the people, and we want to overcome this scourge of the epidemic.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wong. Maybe Dr. Rajan, you are an expert in natural immunity. So, is there a way how do we build natural immunity from COVID? Maybe from a natural approach.
Thank you, Anis. Thank you, Serena. Thank you, Dr. Wong, for your opening remarks, and Dr. Roland. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a pharmacist. I did a doctorate in holistic medicine. And the idea in holistic medicine, in any infection, in any pandemic, is to increase the body's own immunity, right? Nothing like a strong immune system. We know those who are dying are older, have comorbidities, right? Hypertension, diabetes, obesity. And obviously, if you did a proper study, a very, very weak or defective immune system, right? So while we will follow the SOPs, while we'll get vaccinated, I think it's important we go back to basics and take care of the immune system. Your immune system is robust. Your immune system started at birth when your mother breastfed you. In her breast milk, you got all the immunoglobulins of all whatever infection she's been through. And as you came out of the birth canal, you swallowed the gunk, which became the source of your probiotics, right? And as you breastfed, on your mother's nipples were probiotics again that filled up your immune system and developed your immune system and your gut. And I think we need to go back to basics, right? What COVID has shown us is if you follow the basics, you'll be fine. Yeah. Back to Serena and Anis.
Okay. Seems like probiotics is a good way to naturally improve our immune health. Talking about the current pandemic again, it seems like Dr. Wong discussed on the topic on is similar to the terms of breakthrough infections. Could you educate on the audience on more on definition of this term?
Breakthrough. Okay, thanks, Serena. You see, when the virus is a living thing, it's just like the bacteria. You bombard the bacteria with antibiotic, it is going to transform, it's going to evolve. Same thing with the virus, the coronavirus. And if you introduce the vaccine, yes, there will be adaptive immunity at first, but slowly there will be selection of species to want to escape, to want to adapt, to want to evolve slowly. And then this selected species, new strain, then is going to come back to circumvent your defense mechanism. And then each successive new strain or variant that comes back is going to be more and more adaptive to the previous one. Dr. Gerd van den Bossche from Sweden, in February, he already warned about vaccine escape or immune escape. Professor Dr. Luc Montagnier, the Nobel laureate, he also said about it. Dr. Robert Malone and quite a number of luminaries, great scientists of the world, they have mentioned this, that they caution the world authorities that the vaccine should not have been introduced during a pandemic. Before a pandemic, yes, but during a pandemic, when the virus is already full steam in the attack phase on the people. So when you introduce, then the virus will adapt and change and evolve. And each new strain is going to be more virulent than the other. And the latest one is the Delta strain. So the term used is breakthrough. Personally, I don't like the word breakthrough, because if you say breakthrough, then it connotes the first species, the first original one from Wuhan. Okay, but I would say it is evolutive, transformative, and has become selective of new strain. And the last selected one is the one that is to survive all the onslaught on the various vaccine or whatever chemicals that has been adapted to and survive. And that is the final one. Based on the theory of selection, this last one survived. And the last one that, as we are seeing now, is this the Delta strain or the Delta variant. So it is, you either use the word breakthrough, or you want to use the word vaccine escape or immune escape or evolutive selective species.
Thank you, Dr. Wong. That's very interesting. Having said that, there are talks about building your antibody, whether it's post-COVID, pre-COVID. Can Dr. Roland share something about the issue of building your antibody in regards to COVID?
Sure. So Dr. Rajan and Dr. Wong actually got it spot on. I'll probably start from what I'll just continue from what Dr. Rajan mentioned, that this built-in immune system has long been there. Just to share with you, going through over the months, that this system there are two sort of, like, we can divide it into two systems: the innate immune system and the adaptive immune system. And this predates to about 350 million to 450 million years. So can you, this is time tested. I mean, even the dinosaurs probably have immunoglobulins to begin with. So it's something that is already naturally selected, and it's passed down from a species or subspecies from one generation to the other to actually accommodate, to cohabit, or to resist an infection, whether a biosis or a bacteria or virus which is need to be co-shared. You need to cohabit with it in your body, or you actually resist it via a defense system. So when we look into our innate system, this is where you have your white blood cells that can divide it into many of them, like lymphocytes, monocytes, basophils, eosinophils, and so. And then you have the adaptive, which is sort of like a more systematic or super skill adaptive system, where then the NK cells, the natural killing cells, we have the B memory B lymphocytes, the memory T lymphocytes. So all of these memory cells then produce a certain immunoglobulins to actually specifically target a virus, which we see at the moment, the SARS-CoV-2. So this development is necessary. So when we look at whatever is happening now, there is two-pronged approach at the moment. Or the first thing is what we had pre-vaccine, which is the natural immunity, which was developed when there was no vaccine. And then comes the phase maybe past early December globally, where there was a rollout of the first vaccines being developed. And there comes the artificial immunity, which with the use of vaccine, we develop the antibodies against the vaccine. So at practices now available, there are a couple of antibody testings that are available to be carried out even in our country. At the moment, they are focusing much more into the spike protein and also the nucleocapsid testing. But yet again, there are more kinds of proteins and lipids or mixed molecules that can be still tagged on. So our body defense system is very robust. It's almost like I always say in my podcast with my followers in the clinic, where it is almost like a military operation. The military operation does not only belong to paratroopers using parachutes coming down from the sky like a spike protein, if you can imagine. There is the elite force, there is the Navy, there is the Air Force, there is the ground troopers, that you have the tanks. So our body is built in various ways. Macrophages, they can dilute these viruses and break it down into small molecular particles and stuff. So we cannot neglect that ability. We have to also look at that as a positive point. As certain categories need protection, we have to also consider the vaccination rollout. Even though at this position is an emergency use authorization for most of the vaccines at the moment, but we have to be actually just more cautious and more supportive to certain groups in the fear of risk factors and stuff. We know the benefit prevails, but yet again, we have to look at the global data, the real world data.
Okay, all right. That's very interesting, Dr. Roland, on the antibody. There's what I've been reading in the news at the moment. For example, people they're asking, okay, besides vaccines, right, to protect yourself from COVID, what other immunity supplements, or how do I build my immunity? There's a lot out there from the news, but which is the correct one that we should implement, to boost our immunity level? Maybe Dr. Rajan, if you can share.
We know, as Dr. Roland just said, we have a very elaborate system of defense. As a being, the physical barrier of the skin, the tears in the eyes, the saliva in the event that the virus gets through, right? Even in the nose, we have some physical barriers. So that's the first physical defense, if you like, right? Then you have your internal defenses in your blood, in your system, in your limb, right? Produced even deeper from the bone marrow to create all your lymphocytes, the beta lymphocytes, the immunoglobulins. And all of these need proper nutrition, right? You must nourish. It's just like you got an army, you got soldiers, you got to feed them, you got to give them good food, you got to train them, you got to expose them, right? In a similar way, we need a very robust immune system. And we know that there are a couple of supplements, there are a couple of vitamins that are very important. Vitamin C, everybody knows vitamin C. In fact, in the early days of the pandemic in Malaysia, that you could not buy vitamin C on the shelf because everybody's looking for it. But it's not just vitamin C. Your immune system is made of a lot of different things. Vitamin D, for example, has become very important. In fact, if you Google it now, that's the most researched vitamin on the planet, right? We have seen in trial after trial, people who are low in vitamin D are more likely to succumb to COVID in an ICU than somebody who's got a high vitamin D status, right? So making sure that you have enough vitamin C, that you have enough vitamin D, that you have enough protein in your food, because all your antibodies are protein-based, right? There's enough good, high-quality protein in your food, enough water, enough nourishment, enough minerals, right? So taking rich, high-quality food, right, regularly. And if you do this, then not only is your immune system more robust, you are more healthy, which means you're less likely to fall ill, you're less likely to become diabetic, you're less likely to become hypertensive, and as a result, you are more likely to win the battle against COVID, or for that matter, any other newer variant of COVID that's going to emerge. And there are already about 5 or 6 variants are coming out. There seems to be a new variant now that's of concern. So it is going to happen. You know it, I know it. So what are we doing about it, right? Yes, you've been vaccinated, right? Yes, you're wearing a mask. Yes, you keep social distancing. But should you come across that virus, what does your immune system know or do as it gets to your nose, as it starts multiplying in your nose, as it takes over your immune system, right? And that be coming back to the basis of health, which is nutrition. Food is medicine, medicine is food, right? And many of our customers have come to me, and that's why we have this webinar today. What do I do next? What do I do next? I am vaccinated, but I just heard somebody who had vaccinated twice died. What do I do next? What do I do for my children? What do I do for my wife? What do I do for my parents? And my answer always is make sure the nourishment is right. Make sure the immune system is boosted properly with vitamins C and D, right? As a healthcare company, we are constantly innovating products. We now, coming soon, is the world's first water-soluble vitamin D, which, as you know, vitamin D is very poorly absorbed, right? Because it's oil-based. And many of us don't go out in the sun enough, more so in a lockdown, right? So this is water-soluble. It will get almost 100% absorbed, 5 to 10 times better absorbed than oil-soluble. Right? So this is one thing you can do. We're also coming up with a very highly absorbed vitamin C. So the point is that while you are vaccinated and while you've done the 2 vaccines, right, you still need to eat properly, breathe properly, go out in the sun, exercise, make sure that you have enough oxygen into your system, right? If you're a smoker, cut down smoking or completely stop smoking, right? Because smoking, as you know, will paralyze your entire upper respiratory tract, and that actually increases the risk of you getting infected and a risk of you actually succumbing to the infection. Yeah, let me pass this back.
Anis, can I chip in on this point?
Sure, Dr. Wong, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. This before I go on onto the point of what else can we do, and to complement what Dr. Rajan just said.
Yes.
Herd immunity is a concept, and this concept, unfortunately, it is being evolving to suit the financial interest. Yeah. Now, traditionally, the immunity is from natural, your innate immunity. So naturally, when you are exposed, also naturally when you're exposed to a virus, to a pathogen, so your body builds the immunity. Your body builds the antibodies. Then, of course, you also have the adaptive immunity with the vaccine shot. But bear in mind, naturally, when you have got the immunity naturally acquired from natural infection, that is longer lasting. Unfortunately, this point is not being emphasized. The emphasis has been on acquired immunity from the vaccine shot, and that has been the focal point. Okay. The other thing I want to say is that our white blood cells is there to protect us. It is there to scavenge. It's there to kill, to surround, to digest the pathogen, whatever virus, whatever bacteria. Believe, trust in the Almighty God that has given us these white blood cells to fight against the pathogen, the enemies coming into the body. And white blood cells need to carry the weapon to fight. And that weapon is vitamin C. You can't have little bit of weapon, small amount to fight, because almost every cell needs vitamin C. They demand vitamin C. When you're stressful, the demand is high. When you are sick, when you have an injury, when you're infected, the demand is, it goes on much, much higher need. So you must arm your white blood cells with vitamin C. That point has not been emphasized. Unfortunately, our care industry has not been emphasized enough. Yeah, I just want to add in this point. Of course, I want to say about curcumin and ginger, which has got a lot of RCT, randomized controlled trial, that we can do at home, but there's so much to share. But let's move on.
Okay, it seems like food is medicine, medicine is food. Thank you, Dr. Rajan and Dr. Wong. Now, everyone are afraid and in risk, and what we know is that the most important thing is now we to take care of our own natural barrier of defense. Ultimately, seems like that's what the basis of all. So back to tonight's title, Dr. Wong. What about, is there any alternative way out there for us to safely coexist with COVID after the vaccination?
Yes, Dr. Rajan just said just now, vitamin C, sunlight, vitamin D, zinc, the micronutrients, amino acid, fatty acids, minerals, trace minerals. These are all very important. But when you talk about COVID, coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, especially if you want to block the SARS-CoV-2 from bonding into the receptor site, from entering our human cells. The entering point is at the ACE, angiotensin converting enzyme 2 receptor site, which is found plentiful at the endometrium of the blood vessels, the pleura of the lungs, the syncytial trophoblast of the placenta, kidneys. So these are the points, the organs where the virus easily go into. So we want to block that. So vitamin C plus micronutrients reduces these receptor sites and also block. And we have talked so much about ivermectin. Ivermectin also does this blocking. Not only block, it blocks into the spike protein, it blocks into the bonding site, it blocks the pathway of when the virus goes into the cells. It needs a series of protein to produce. It uses the protein of the human cells to propagate, to replicate. So ivermectin does the blocking in so many ways, yet so many in a broad spectrum mechanism of action. And there are, I said something about ginger. Ginger has been well researched. Curcumin has been well researched. It blocks the replication process too. It blocks the cell line of growth, yeah, progressive growth of this pathogen. It blocks them, inhibits their growth. Their alkalinity, yeah, you need a lot of alkaline food, alkaline water, oxygen, breathing exercise. All these are alkaline. These pathogen do not thrive in an acidic, in an alkaline condition. So you need the alkalines of blood, maintain its alkalinity of pH 7.4, 7.5. So that's why Qigong, breathing exercise, pranayam, eating healthy food, alkaline drinking water, a lot of vegetable juice, even fasting, therapeutic fasting. Fasting is detoxing your toxic element from your body. So all these, there are so many things that we can do. Yeah, but I end here. Let others share their points.
Anis, can I add on a bit the what
Yes,
Dr.
yes,
Wong
sure,
and
sure, Dr. Ron.
mentioned? So
Right.
I think Dr. Rajan mentioned about the vitamin D in terms of
Yes, right.
supplementation. I also wanted to add on the natural exposure of vitamin D sunlight, which is absolutely free. But due to the SOPs, everybody, which I term in Malay, it's called Putri Lilian. Everybody is just sitting at home and not going out and getting a good sun exposure. And one more thing is the lockdowns have caused a lot of people have a lot of disruption in doing exercise and workout. And one must understand, exercise itself improves the regulation of your lymphatic system. And you must understand a lot of these cells, lymphatic cells, which keeps the memory cells, are located in these locations. So when you are consuming certain antioxidants and vitamins, they sort of, what I would say is, they sharpen up your military ability and the military skill set. So when that happens, your army is very well equipped. Their shoes are polished for the war. But what happens is, when just a focus of just going with one silver bullet of vaccine, you do not actually look into the adaptive immune system, that how do you actually, even with vaccination, really empower the immune system, where you really make your T cells, your CD4, CD8 really solid. And that's when you're going to see your immunoglobulins actually really spike up, because they're so responsive, they're so ready for the real battle, even if you are inoculated. And the lockdown, on another perspective, has also led to a lot of stress. And stress per se itself suppresses your serotonin release in your gut. It suppresses your mood, and of course, at the end point, suppresses your immunity. So you are suppressed, depressed, and you go and get the vaccines, and then you feel that, hey, the immune system that is developed is not even as maybe expected, or below average, because the lifestyle, the food, the exercise, the rest, the calmness has all been gone, because it's a 360 approach in medicine that we have to champion. And that, sadly, not just locally, globally has been neglected. It's almost that the free sunlight is almost like no cash point to earn. Advising people to conduct free programs on TV in terms of exercise shows, because people are indoors. It's free of charge. Watch and broadcast that, like, build up your immune system. Make sure if you have comorbidities like diabetes, hypertension, make sure you get checked, because if you get hit, at least your sugar is in the right point, your pressure is the right point, or not just neglect. Back to you, Anis.
I mean, going back with what Dr. Roland said, yeah, the best things in life are still free. Sunlight is free, right? Go out there, take 15, 20 minutes of the morning sun, 15, 20 minutes of the evening sun, do a bit of exercise there, take deep breathing, little basic things that you can do to empower your immune system. Also, going back to food and nutrition, right? There are a lot of studies now on one particular active called quercetin and hesperidin, which are found in onions, right? Take a lot of onion, take a lot of garlic. This is not difficult, right? It's fairly cheap. Yeah. Just it boosts your immune system. We've got good clinical studies on this. There's even a clinical study specifically against SARS-CoV-2, where they combined quercetin from onions, right? And it found to be effective. So this is something that you can easily add to your food. I mean, in holistic medicine, right, there are only two laws. Number one, first, do no harm. Number two, food is medicine, medicine is food, right? If you just follow this, I think you will have a much better outcome against not just COVID, but any infection.
That's right. I agree fully with Dr. Rajan. Don't underestimate your body. Take care of your body. All of us. So, okay, the question posed is we have been vaccinated. Now, so what? We are also seeing now a variant of a concern, the Delta variant, which is becoming more and more virulent. But don't underestimate your body. This God-given body is self-protective, provided you know how to take care. You don't abuse the body. Earlier on, I mentioned you must have sufficient amount of vitamin C. But then people do not know that they wallop a lot of sugar, high sugar food, sweetened food. Then you must understand the pump that pumps in sugar molecule and vitamin C molecule is the same pump, shares the same pump. If the sugar content we are consuming high, a lot of this, then sugar is being pumped into the cells and not the vitamin C. Vitamin C is being crowded out. So at the same time, we must tell the people that do not consume food that is detrimental to your health. Sugar is the number one culprit that people are not aware of. But of course, we need to consume a lot of vegetable, eat a lot of ulam, therapeutic fasting, juicing, alkaline drinking water, pranayam, oxygen, vitamin D. Yeah, all these are health building factors. But do not consume or abuse your body by taking the food factors that is detrimental to our health.
Right, Doctor. Just I'm thinking, right? There's a new. Every day we're reading about this Delta variant, something very dangerous. I'm also concerned. My family concerned about this Delta variant. So, is there any possibility of new variants coming in from all these COVID cases? And what do we do? How can we, stop these variants from multiplying into another level of dangerous variants? How do we do that as a rakyat?
Can I go first on this point? Earlier on, I said because of continuous bombardment, this is a living thing. Yeah, once the virus goes into our body, adapt to our protein, our own human cells, then it's going to replicate, it's going to multiply. It's a living thing now. So when it is being bombarded, it changes. A lot will die. Some will survive, but the selected species that survive has got a memory how to fight, how to escape the previous bombardment. So new variant will come, new strain will come. So it will evolve. It will continue to evolve. So unfortunately, that is so. But it is not a lost cause. Believe in the Almighty that gives us this body that is self-protective, provided we work together with our body, arm our defense mechanism, boost up our immune system, our white blood cell. Don't forget, it needs the weapon, the vitamin C, plus the zinc, plus the micronutrients, the trace minerals, and to fight against whatever new strain, whether it is Delta or any new future strain that is more and more virulent. Our immune system, our white blood cells are the one that is going to kill them, surround them, digest them, break them up, and reuse the protein and recycle it into our body for reusing. Believe in our body, our God's given body that is trained to fight and trained to survive. We can survive, but we have to understand the basic concept, principles.
I think, the data is out there. 80% of all COVID infections are asymptomatic, right? That means you have no symptom, you are not aware. Sometimes you might have a sniffle here and there, right? But when you survive that infection asymptomatically, you have performed or you have developed possibly lifetime immunity. That's very important.
Yeah.
Right? In order to get that, you need your body finely tuned. You need your immune system robust. Right? Now, the obviously, we're going to do all the SOPs, whether it's washing your hands, sanitizing your hands, wearing a mask. That's all fine. That's all fine. But the risk is still there. And the only way to beat that risk is to make sure that your immune system is robust, right? We've got enough data of vitamin C, vitamin D. We've got a lot of data coming in terms of omega-3 fish oils, for example. They prevent the inflammation that results in the cytokine storms. And just doubling up your dose of fish oil alone can be a big help, right? In a similar way, taking probiotics, right? Probiotics are very, very important. We know the immune system is maybe even centered around the gut, right? And the probiotics, they are very, very important. So taking your probiotics regularly is again very, very important, right? And then on top of all that, there's so many things that we know that people use in Chinese medicine, like lychee, for example, right? Various mushrooms, which have all been linked to immune boosting. Neem, right? Which is coming from the Indian system of medicine, very powerful antiviral, right? Used throughout the millennia to treat chicken pox, smallpox, measles. They're all viral, right? And if you go to the standard typical Indian funeral, you will see that the last thing they put in the coffin is neem and turmeric, because they're very powerfully antiviral, not just for that coffin, but also they come back and they spray the house with neem leaf and turmeric because of the antiviral effect. So these are all available, right? Neem grows in Malaysia. The Malays call it daun mambu. The Indians call it verpele, right? And you can just take the leaf, make a juice, and drink it, right? We also have this product in the pharmacy. It's a product called Bitrin. Again, it's a very valuable antiseptic, antiviral, right? So there are so many things you can do. I mean, it's good you got the vaccine. It's good you got 2 doses, but that doesn't mean the virus won't evolve, and the virus is evolving, and you cannot stop the virus from evolving, especially when you're vaccinating in a pandemic. But you can boost your immune system and make sure that no matter what's thrown at it, it comes up standing good. And that's the key message of today, right?
Yeah. I just want to chip in, Dr. Rajan. If there's a scientific report that says that neem is the closest substitute to the ivermectin in terms of working against the SARS-CoV-2.
Yeah, and Dr. Wong, we sell a product neem in pharmacies. In the pandemic, early days, we were out of stock. We could not, because one pharmacist read it, spoke about it on some Facebook somewhere, and before long, we were out of stock. But yes, you're right. The mechanism of the antiviral activity is very, very similar to ivermectin. And
I think what Dr. Rajan and Dr. Wong mentioned is absolutely true. But what is saddened in our system is we feel that physicians are becoming too dependent on meta-analysis and not going back to our basic fundamental roots, because the diversion of pharmaceutical approach and study have left out the basic, simple, organic options of nature. And I think it's high time where we have to go back into our main source of nature and see what nature had to offer. And of course, because it's unable to be patented and stuff, it doesn't get a lot of appreciation in the mainstream medicine, and that is the big challenge. So the unlearning of just prescribing, but actually looking into other holistic options. We cannot deny the function and the abilities of antivirals and antibiotics. We cannot discount that. But at the same time, we cannot discount the function of neem. We cannot discount the function of a good amount of antioxidants that actually support the system again. So that is a big challenge that we see. Where in this pandemic, the challenge we see in the face of, like, there is an absolute orthodox, that's the vaccine or the highway, and we have neglected this robust ability to support it. And you know what? If you're going to get more higher IgGs and respond, then we also need to know how to actually make the immunoglobulin more sufficient. A good amount of globulins, as what Dr. Rajan mentioned earlier. It's going to come from the protein cells. If you do not eat proper food that are rich in globulins, then you don't even have the base core structure to even produce your immunoglobulin. It's not going to come even from photosynthesis to begin with.
I mean, Doctor, I can achieve just a short one. I would be the person to shout the loudest to praise for the vaccines if the result shows the good result, positive result shows. But unfortunately, the results is telling the other way. There are more variants of concerns, and more infection rate is climbing. Death rate is also climbing, and we are also seeing it in other countries, in Israel and other countries too. But that is why I advocate for using the natural way to boost up our immune system to complement the vaccination program. It is a must. I just cannot comprehend why we are not doing that. The establishment, we need to boost our immune system, immunotherapy. Every person, we must tell the rakyat to do that. Then we should not fear. At the same time, we go for the vaccine program. But of course, when we talk about vaccine program, we are talking about safe vaccine program.
Yeah. I think if we just take away one message from today, trust your immune system. Okay, feed it properly, nurse it, guide it, cheer it. Right. If you go back 100 years ago, we had the Spanish flu. Right. There was no vaccine. There was no WHO.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Right. We suffered. But in 2.5 years, it went away completely. There's not a single variant of concern that came out of it. What worked? Our immune system worked. The immune system overcame the virus to a point where the virus today cannot actually survive and cause problems. Right? So it's our immune system that ultimately takes care of us. Now, we have the standard food for that. We got the supplements for that. We got the herbs for that. We got the special foods that we have used, clove, turmeric, ginger, right, which we have used throughout the ages to boost immunity. We just need to go back to basics, right? We are not saying anything about what's not going on now. Go back to basic, feed the immune system, feed your body, feed every single cell, feed your bone marrow so they can produce the macrophages, the immunoglobulins, right? And this is something your grandmother would tell you, right? Eat your turmeric, eat your ginger, eat your garlic, eat your mushrooms. Right?
Eat your sayur.
Very basic. Very basic.
Yeah.
Occasional detox, if I may add. Therapeutic fasting once in a while. Don't
Very
overeat.
important.
No sugar. Cut down sugar to the minimum, especially during this epidemic period that we should control our dietary intake of the sugar because it is very detrimental to our health.
And Dr. Wong, very sadly, when we are in lockdown, we tend to eat at home. And we tend to go for very refined food, your instant noodle, right? Which is really, really a problem, right? And then I know people are they're grabbing to their homes bubble tea, which is sugar. Right? So all this contradicts the overall overarching theme that you need a solid immune system that is fully fed, detox, and ready to fight.
Doctor, how do we know, macam mana kita boleh tahu our immunity or antibody level is good, great, what are the indicators?
So this will be my question, I guess. The one
Okay, I'm putting to all to the doctors. How do we know that?
Okay, so at the moment there's a lot of blood taking and testing done globally in regards to antibody testing. So what we're looking at is now being very specific and terrific as of we know now. So at the moment available in Malaysia is what we call as neutral COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 neutralizing antibodies. So we have neutralizing antibodies for the spike protein, which everybody knows, the spikes. And then we have also the nucleocapsid. So it's sort of like an envelope of the RNA information of the virus itself. So that itself shows 2 prongs or 2 points where the body can neutralize. Neutralize means simply said, it's like I'm pinning down the bad guy like that. I'm pinning him at the back and giving a cuff. And then we know how to target. If someone is walking around with a handcuff, probably he could be an escaped criminal. So the other macrophages comes and engulfs him. So
finish him off.
Yeah, exactly. So when we're looking at the neutralizing antibody test, what we see, we have two positions at the moment. We have a qualitative test and also a quantitative test. So for the spike proteins, we have a quantitative test. So we can see actually how much of immunoglobulins, IgA, IgM, and IgG is produced at that present moment. So this test simply said, although it was downplayed recent weeks, I still feel that there should be a possibility of test and tell. Test and tell, because we need to understand the scenarios, because if for some individuals that have chosen to take the vaccine and build a decent amount of immunity, then they should actually examine and see how well did they develop the immunity, because one person is going to differ from the other, whether the amounts are sufficient or not, but yet we do not haven't even approached sufficient numbers yet. So if we can actually get a public study done to see, because we have started vaccination from the point of I think it's early of March, when the first mRNA vaccine came, and then we have the other variations of vaccine from the viral vector platforms, and also the date options like Sinovac and stuff. So we have these options of and we have to actually get to see, okay, what's the patterns, because most of the studies were not done on Asians also to begin with. So we need to see, because the Asian food culture, for example, what Dr. Wong and Dr. Rajan said, depends a lot on herbs in cooking, spices. So all of that, as we know, our kunyit, our ginger, our garlic, and it's almost there in almost every meal, to say. So we should actually also look at into our Asian studies and come up with something and see, okay, what is the adaptive immunity response in 3 months, in 6 months, and we need to get the studies out. We have been only focused on bombarding, telling the public that we're only coming up with the ivermectin study, which it's almost like cornering our vision and just focusing on one direction but neglecting the other stuff. So the adaptive immunity, we're looking at the IgG and the spike protein, is actually available in the market, and people can choose to do them at their own free will to see whether they have natural immunity first. They would have been exposed to the virus and build natural immunity. They want to see how good and robust the immunity is seen. And there's a lot of studies even from like Mount Sinai in US and a lot of physicians doing this. And a lot of physicians in US has actually been infected with COVID, and they are absolutely depending on their natural immunity, and they are actually doing a lot of plotting to see how is their own immunity progressing. There's even availability of doing even the memory T cell test over there, but unfortunately it's not available here yet. I think maybe it's definitely going to come over the months to come. So these things, and you can even check the antibodies after you vaccinated. Maybe I would decently say like maybe after a month, to give your body a bit of adjusted time to see how much of immunities you have developed from the first shot, the booster shot, and how high it go. Because some people still have this doubt of like, even after you have your natural immunity, you still have to get the vaccination, and just to obtain a certificate on the phone, which is still I would say there has to be an inclusive approach rather than a selective approach. So when you be selective, you discriminate one individual who has maybe had category 4, category 5 COVID, came out resurrected from the ventilator out in the public, maybe who has an absolutely robust immunity, maybe past 5,000, 8,000. I've seen some individuals actually showed me to some tests, even certain physicians overseas and locally, very, very robust immunity. And they said, look, do I flood my blood vessels with a higher number of immunoglobulins? Because the body adapts to a position where when you do not see infection, it starts to fade off and it resets itself. It's almost like if you have a riot, I'm pretty sure that Dataran Merdeka is full with cops. But when there is no riot for months and you do not think that anything is happening, you probably have just petrol cars patrolling maybe in an hour or two, just to make sure there is peace. And that's where the immune system has this CD4, CD8 cells, memory T cells that are docking in your limbs. They do not need to just perpetually patrol around just to scavenge on something, because there's nothing to scavenge at that point.
Yeah.
So if you perpetually from birth to now, let's just say one is 50 years of age, all the immunoglobulins are like lurking around the body. No, it doesn't work that way.
Okay, talking about a more holistic approach, right? We have been discussing on the strengthening internal immunity. Now we touch more on the external protection. You know, Dr. Raja also mentioned on about sanitizing. There's a lot of concern on alcohol sanitizer, drying the hand, poses risk of fire hazard. Now, is there any alternative sanitizing method? Maybe Dr. Rajan can talk more about that.
Sure. Just before I talk to sanitizer, Serena, I just want to tell you a story about when I had chicken pox. I was 6 years old. I remember very, very well. My grandmother said, "Okay, now you're quarantined." I couldn't leave my room. Look at the knowledge she had, the wisdom she already had. She made me do therapeutic fasting. I only could take coconut water and tea, right? In the evening, I broke fast with a broth. Normally it was fish or chicken broth, protein, right? With a lot of garlic, ginger. I used to hate it, right? But she told me, if you do this, you'll get better. You won't have the pock marks on your face. And sure enough, I recovered, I think, under a week. You know, she made me sleep. I couldn't leave my room. I couldn't play with my sister. So quarantine, therapeutic fasting, high quality nutrition, fish broth, chicken broth, with herbs that we know today are very powerfully immune enhancing antiviral. Plus, I had to sleep on my bed. I had neem leaves, and I had to take neem juice. So you see,
you get the rasam?
The rasam, which is again herbs, garlic, ginger, right? So this is immunity at work, traditional medicine at work, the wisdom of the ages at work, right? And then I had to take hot shower, because you know hot showers will boost the blood flow, right? Get the blood going,
Correct.
Do hot showers, and I had to blanket and sweat, because my body heat goes up, so my immune system is enhanced. You see, very basic things, but she knew it. Tap, 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 tap. She said, do this, do this, do this. And in 5 days, not only did I recover, my siblings didn't get it, but I didn't get all those, you know, the chicken pox marks. I didn't have that, right? So we are back to very, very basic things, right? Never ignore your immune system, and never ignore traditional knowledge. Speak to your grandmother.
Correct.
Doctors, how about diets? Example, keto diets. Does that have any factors? Sorry to stray a little bit out of the topic, but since we're talking about immunity and all that, but I think diet plays a role, as mentioned by Dr. Roland. So is there any role?
No, a keto diet basically is a zero carb diet, which means zero sugar, zero rice, zero starch, zero noodles, right? And that means what? It means zero of that. You must eat more fish, more protein, more vegetables, more eggs, right? So what your body needs, what the immune system needs, is essential fatty acids and essential amino acids, right? So in a keto diet, you get this. You get the fat and you get the protein. So you get the amino acids. In fact, we have a formulation called ProImmune. We sell the supplement in pharmacies, which contains 3 important amino acids that boost your production of glutathione. I mean, again, in this pandemic, there is not enough discussion on glutathione. Not enough, right? We have some talk about vitamin C, but who's talking about glutathione, which is the master of the immune system? You know, it's the general that will drive the army forward. It's part of the system, and we have a supplement, right? In fact, I've given it to people with dengue. You know, the blood count comes down. If you got a flu, it improves. You know, my mother is now not well. We give it to her. It helps her. 3 basic amino acids, right, and a cofactor, selenium, that boosts the production of glutathione in the body. I'm surprised, right? 18 months of the pandemic, there's little talk about glutathione, the master antioxidant, the general of the immune system. Absolutely critical, but we don't talk about it. Now, going back before that to Serena's question about sanitizers, there are two reasons why you sanitize. Number one is you are going, when you shake hands and when you touch people, then, or even you go to shop, you take money, you test the money, you might pick up the virus in your hands, right? So you sanitize. So that, why do you sanitize? Your hands will never get infected. You sanitize because you will touch your face 2 to 3,000 times per hour. Okay. Now, when you touch your face, there are 3 potential openings for a virus to enter. One is the eye. Now, the eye, fortunately, is protected by tears, and natural tears are very powerfully antiviral, which is why you seldom get sore eyes. Okay. The other opening is your mouth. Now, the mouth, as we eat, you have saliva. Saliva in itself is quite antiviral. That's why, if you've got a cut, you lick it and it protects the cut, right? And if you do swallow, it goes into your stomach and your acids take care of it. So your mouth is fine. The biggest problem is your nose, right? Your nose is always open, always dark, always warm, always moist. Perfect for a virus or a bacteria to get in there. Now, on top of that, you have some nasal secretions, which are good viral food. So when the virus gets to your nose, right, normally here, right, normally in here, and then it will divide, and normally you get 1 trillion bits of viral proteins in 24 hours, right? Then they will invade upwards into your sinus and downwards into your throat and into your lungs, right? So you take a sanitizer. So it's good for you to take sanitizers that are not alcohol-based because they long last. They last longer, and they don't dry your hands. They're not flammable. So there's one that Dr. Roland is having in front of him now, that's Silver Bullet. It's one of our products. But we also have Nat Shield, which is another product of ours. And that product we have developed into a nasal balm. A nasal balm, right? And the nasal balm is, you put it into your nose so that in the event you touch your nose, the balm contains this protectin, which has been shown to kill SARS-CoV-2, but also it's got a pH of 5.5, which viruses don't like, right? At that pH, that's why you don't get skin infections very easily, because the skin is 5.5, right? So we're coming with the balm. It's the first time in the world, right? We'll be coming with the balm soon, and we'll reach out to you all. Now, I also got a query. What is it that works like ivermectin? It's a Indian herb or an Indian plant called neem, Neem. And it sells in pharmacies. We have a product called Bitterin, which sells in pharmacies. Yeah. Back to you all.
Can I add in one point that was not emphasized enough? Anis, you talk about the keto diet. Keto diet is excellent for a short period to reduce weight. In terms of a therapeutic purpose or to assist boost our immune system to fight against the coronavirus, I don't think that is very helpful. I would prefer to be more detoxing, detoxification diet, cleansing diet to help detox our body. That would be more effective. Yeah, but there are two things that we can do. The lay people can do is the very simple, and you don't have to spend money. Breathing exercise, pranayam, scientific breathing, qigong. You just use this because when you bring in the oxygen is negative charge. When it goes into your body system, into your lungs, and it goes into your blood, it's going to enhance your the hemoglobin, the red blood cells. The red blood cells will stay independent and not merge. When you eat an unhealthy diet, it's too much sugar, food that is difficult to digest, or even chemical medication, drugs, and all that. Too much of this will cause the white blood cells to agglutinate, or when you are infected, they are all merged together in a. You call, if you see it in a dark field, you say a rouleau. all merge together in a chain of the red blood cells. So therefore, it diminishes the surface area of the red blood cells to absorb oxygen. But when you do qigong and pranayam, breathing exercise, scientific breathing, it enhances the oxygen absorbing capacity of your red blood cells. Don't underestimate that. You don't need to spend money. You just spend 5 minutes morning, 5 minutes afternoon, evening, or any time, and that will boost your health too.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so I think let's move on to the Q&A session for tonight's event. Let's flash up the first question from the public. Now, so Jeffrey would like to ask doctors, although we have no data regarding nutritional factors in relation to risk and severity of the COVID-19, what are some examples of existing evidence on nutrition and infection that would be important to consider? Open to the doctors? Anyone? Maybe Dr. Wong?
Repeat the question again. The last one. What's the evidence that nutrition helps? Is it? What is the scientific evidence?
That would be important to consider, maybe to reduce the risk or severity of COVID-19 infection.
Approximately scientific evidence on diet to specifically tailored to the SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19. I have not seen any, but in China, they have conducted 3 big clinical trials on vitamin C, and all these 3 clinical trials have shown positive result. So, but that is on high dose vitamin C through IVC, in intravenous. So that is the scientific data that is very powerful evidence. But in terms of diet, what kind of diet? Well, I just talk about qigong and all that. Whether qigong or pranayam helps in COVID, to reduce the symptoms or not, I have not seen any scientific paper or studies on this. It'll be interesting. But then everybody's focused on how to cure the vaccines, and there are a lot of a lot of discussion on ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and so forth.
All right. Another question, Doctor. How do we know that our body has the natural immunity towards COVID? How do we know that?
I think very simple. I think just jump in there. I think we already mentioned that in our previous discussion maybe about 10 minutes ago, where you actually can do the test and see whether you have natural immunity.
Oh, so there's a test for...
Yes, there are tests available in several countries available. Many labs are offering this test to check. You're going to look for specific COVID-19 neutralizing antibody test. COVID-19 neutralizing antibody test, and you can get it done. It's available at many clinics and laboratories in Malaysia at the moment.
I see. Okay. A question from the audience.
Hold on, I just want to add one point, Anis.
Sure,
when I said there's no scientific paper or no research done, clinical study done, I did not mean it is not workable, okay?
Yes.
We don't have to wait for science, big, large-scale clinical trial to show proof, then only we use that the scientific, the result of that research. No, there are already experience of physician, naturopath, natural healers, medical doctors who have already have years of clinical experience and to treat the coronavirus, not necessarily coronavirus, to treat infection. And that is good enough. Based on that, based on your expert doctor's experience, it is good enough to move along.
Yes.
Exactly.
Even though I said there is no clinical study to show proof that it is, other than the 3 large clinical trials, vitamin C. But it does not mean that the natural therapies do not work.
Dr. Wong, if I can add to that, that's Jeffrey Quack's question earlier. I think there's a lot of data on vitamin D. I have a chart, and maybe at the next webinar.
No, the question is pointed to the coronavirus COVID-19.
Yeah, we have a data that shows that those who are dying of COVID-19 have vitamin D levels below 18, and they're sure to die. If it's above 32, you won't die. That's very strong data. It's going to get published soon. It's based on autopsies in a New York hospital. I have the data, and I'll share the next webinar. Now,
the research institute, I'm with Dr. Ra Research Institute based in Santa Clara, California. We have done, our group of scientists have done with vitamin C, proline, lysine, N-acetyl L-cysteine, zinc, B group of vitamins, a combination. We believe in nutrient synergy, not a single nutrient. There's no stand-alone. To fight this COVID-19, there's no single nutrient or single drug, stand-alone medication to fight it. You need a combination, synergy.
In India, the Office of Alternative Medicine has done work, not COVID, but pranayama for infection, pranayama for common cold, right? With showing better outcomes, faster healing, better resolution of symptoms compared to non-pranayama. Just a simple breathing exercise, because you get oxygen in the body, you inflate your lungs with oxygen, you increase your own personal chi, right? And that alone seems to help outcomes.
I think, can I just add in just a bit? I'm just going through the comments, and I saw one comment that mentioned here by Azad. They said, if no clinical findings, it's pseudo. I think this is where the problem lies.
Where the trouble
you do not need to do a great clinical trial to find that water is essential to our body. It's coming to the same point. The fundamental substance from food, nutrition, are the core elements where your building blocks are. When you sort of like build a building, you need the engineering plan, but then also the raw materials that come in. If you choose to neglect the raw materials and bring the best engineers in the world, no building is made, and hence no immunity is made. So the perspective of always looking at, I want this study, I want this, I want that. Come on, this is basic, essential livelihoods. If we neglect the right food and just choose to use an Uberized system to get highly sugarized food and do not exercise and be obese and allow ourselves to have a lot of diseases, you would have wasted your time hoping for a clinical finding. You probably be gone by then. So if we are not able to look back and go to our basic fundamentals, we lost it.
Okay,
I want to share with you. I want to add on to Dr. Roland what he just said. In a pandemic, in a chaotic situation, COVID health pandemic emergency, if you are waiting for a large scale, well conducted and well financed, it has to be well financed, clinical trial, double blind, placebo control, or control it to the standard care, a large scale trial, then only wait for the result to make decision, that is unethical. In terms of health governance, in terms of curing patient, in terms of what patient need, the community need, that is unethical, that is bad governance, that is unethical for the patient who are dying, clamoring for a cure. That is why even the ivermectin trials that have been dated back over the last half year or so, the earlier clinical trials, RCTs, randomized control trial on ivermectin, were mostly conducted by individual doctors or small group of doctors from the universities. They were so keen, so fired up to find a cure. They self-financed. Most of these studies were self-financed. Of course, many of these doctors were not trained in research methodology, or they were not well guided, but they want quickly to find an answer whether it works or not. From the first test tube study from Australia, the study, Dr. Kelly and all. So based on that, they took the cue of the Australian study and they did small scale study. Many of these studies were admitted not well conducted. There was some bias, low level of evidence, admitted that it was not well conducted, but they wanted to find answer. No doubt they found answer. There was shortened period of hospitalization, lower viral load, in fact even reduced mortality. That point alone, reduced mortality is a very powerful point. The moment an RCT, immaterial whether it was well conducted or not, but it shows lower mortality, reduced mortality, that is a very powerful indication. Pay notice to that. But unfortunately, despite, if you combine together all these RCTs of ivermectin, it showed about 80+% up to 90% reduced mortality. But if you take out the Al-Ghazal study from Egypt, okay, you take that study out, that is a big study, the reduced mortality goes down to about 50%, 40%, which is still good, which is still excellent, because mortality alone is a strong indicator that you must pay attention. Unfortunately, as I said, because of corporate, industrial, financial interest that's making the call, people are ignoring that fact, and they are still demanding big study, big study.
Okay. Allow me to share 3 anecdotes. Yeah. First one is every day we are in a war with the virus, and the virus is winning.
Exactly.
Okay? Every day we are losing the same number of people that die in MH70 every single day. Right? And we seemingly have no answer. 250 deaths per day. We have no answer. Right? Now, for me to sit around and wait for a clinical trial to confirm something and otherwise say it's pseudo, I think is madness. It's madness. I'm talking about food. I'm talking about exercise. I'm talking about sunlight. I'm talking about simple, basic vitamin D, vitamin C, right? Simple, basic fish oil, simple, basic probiotic. Do you really need a clinical trial for this? Come on. Is this pseudo? It's through the ages this is lived. 4,000, 5,000 years of continuous use, and you still need clinical trials to confirm? I think that's ridiculous. Okay, but let me share with you 2 very important anecdotes. The first one is I had a cat. She grew up with us. Now this cat only ate fish throughout her life, right? Only ate fish. But when she becomes sick, she will run away and hide, right? My mother will chase her, try to feed her with a syringe. She will run away and hide. What's she doing? Therapeutic fasting and quarantine, right? And then all her life, she only eats fish. But when she is sick, she knows to go and eat a type of grass.
Yes.
I'm sure all of you with pets will know this.
Yes.
Now, did she go for a randomized clinical trial to find out whether that herb worked?
The grass is effective.
Come on, people, come on. I'm shocked that people are even saying that taking vitamin C and taking amino acids is pseudoscience. Cannot, come on. Don't get caught up in the trap, right? This is food. Food is medicine. Medicine is food, right? Now, the other anecdote I want to share with you is my late uncle. When I was doing pharmacy, I was very arrogant. I thought I knew all the answers. I thought in modern medicine, all the answers lay. We had a big argument one day. And he said, it was night. He said, you go out there and see the stars. All those stars are in a fixed pattern moving through the universe. Not a single star will clash or crash. There is such a high intelligence that takes care of the universe. The outer universe. They can also take care of the inner universe if you allow it to. Don't be too smart. Follow nature. Yeah, thank you.
Correct.
Welcome. We have another question, doctors, from user Astral Blaze. Is herd immunity something realistic and achievable? Any of you would care to comment, share your thoughts on this?
Can I go on this?
Please go ahead, Dr. Roland.
In the afternoon, I had another discussion at the Malaysian Freedom Movement. So the big guys of epidemiology said this is absolutely rubbish. And I want to add and just give a simple scenario. So if you're looking at herd immunity, you're looking at animals. And I give you a scenario that imagine if you have 100 sheep in Keppel and you need them to be vaccinated, and one of them maybe had immunocompromised condition. So you will actually vaccinate the 99 and leave the one alone.
Yeah,
And then
unvaccinated.
you have another herd of 100 sheep in Ampang, and you have maybe 2 of them has some immunocompromised condition, and the 98 of them are well and healthy. So you inoculate 98 of them, protecting the herd. But we fail to realize that humans are social animals. Humans do trade. Humans share skill. Humans trade commodities. And if you want to go to that realm, you will never achieve. So the coin of nobody is safe until everybody is safe exists, but Malaysia is not in Mars or Venus. We have to be
Yes.
realistic. If you've got 5% of Africa not vaccinated, and there is a need for vaccine hoarding by the big guys, you never achieve it. It's going to be escape variants. You're going to be variants that are going to thrive, and that's not going to be achievable. You have to learn how to adapt with the virus as fast as you can. Yes, there's going to be an option of a variety of technology platforms for vaccination, but like I said, you need to make sure that the herd is fed well. The herd is not sick. The herd has proper shade. The herd has proper water. The herd has proper food in order to be sort of like slaughtered one day and get the best yield. But in terms of yeah, in terms of the human perspective, the globalized human population, that is going to be an impossible term to comprehend. And you got to say that the best epidemiologists have already conquered. Even we have already moved into say like, no, that's not going to be possible. This herd immunity concept is not going to be possible. Maybe you might be achieving in the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks the 90, even an 80% or 90% vaccination rate. But that again, the concept of herd immunity has to be acknowledged. It's not about pushing and introducing 100% achievable KPIs by corporate companies. Come on, get real. You cannot abuse certain labor acts, certain Akta Kesehatan 1994. I'm not exactly specific on the act. We are trying to force mandate public who cannot take vaccine. Some of them there has to be an exclusion, and that's one of the message traits I'm seeing in the comment. There are some people cannot get vaccines, and you are discriminating the whole herd because 2 of the herd maybe has an immunocompromised position. Maybe one of them is just in 2 weeks to go before delivery, and they're not ready. They feel that they are pretty comfortable and ready for delivery. Has to have an exclusion, and those of them who actually has built natural immunity. So that herd immunity has to be looked in terms of is either you getting a natural or artificial immunity, and just forget about the herd, because we are just a super community which is a global. It's not it's a globalized community here.
Correct. And our incoming health minister has already said, right? Khairi Jamaluddin has already said we should not be looking at herd immunity, right?
Correct.
Because
Correct.
of the
concept of the herd immunity is fast becoming not so relevant now. It's still relevant, the discourse, the argument, but it's not. It's fast becoming not so relevant with these new variants coming in and the variant escape breakthrough and all that. It is in the mainstream discussion is fast moving towards the realm of it's going to be endemic. It's going to be with us. Dr. Robert Malone has said that traditionally the virus, if they allow to cohabit in our body, it will survive initially. It will cause some problem in the beginning, but by and by it is becoming less and less virulent. It initially wants to be more and more infective, but it becomes at the same time less and less virulent until it becomes endemic and our body copes with it. So we have to take notice of what has been discussed, not discard away all these alternative thinkers, not in the mainstream. the alternative thinker not in the mainstream is because they have not given a platform to share their views. Because the mainstream only wants to carry a single tone the narrative for industrial financial interests.
Okay. Right, thank you.
Everybody wake up.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you, Dr. Wong. Right, we have another question on the floor from Marissa. Now she asked that, does it mean just because your tests come back negative that you don't have immunity? There must be another factor that support the body against COVID. So open to all doctors. Anyone would like to address this question?
Okay, maybe I'll address this. This is an easy one. So when we look at what Marisa mentioned is, if she does a test and it comes back negative, what does it mean? So we have to understand that we got to go back to the basic concept of the innate and adaptive. What's not present at the moment is the adaptive immunity to produce the immunoglobulin. But what's present still and forever will is the innate system. Your white blood cells, your lymphocytes, your eosinophils, your basophils, all of these are even present, and even your skin, your barrier, your mucosal lining, all of these are protective mechanism against the virus. So before the virus can even invade, the adaptive options of skin lining, mucosal lining, secretion, mucus has already taken the task out to defend you. So if you have a good system, then voila, you've got the innate guys to do the job before even the adaptive guys come in.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Roland. Now, up next question.
Okay. Can you give some awareness on what to expect and when and what to do when someone is infected with COVID? From Nelly Chin. Sorry.
Open
Open to all
all
the
doctors. Anyone would like to address this?
From what we have seen, the vast majority people are asymptomatic. When the outbreak from Wuhan in the beginning, the asymptomatic were not so many, but now asymptomatic cases are 80%. That is the first thing that we should expect. So if you are tested positive and asymptomatic, then as what we said just now, boost up your immune system. That's what we have been talking for the last 1 hour plus. So there should be no fear that it will advance. There should be, we should be worried based on the virulent Delta strain. But as a whole, if we take care of our health, then we should not. Reasonably healthy people should not worry that it should advance to hospitalization. But if it has come to category 3 where it needs hospitalization for standard care treatment or whatever therapy that we were talking about, then again, you should boost yourself, take good care of your body, and let the doctors also help you with probably the standard care. So this is what to expect if someone is infected. Someone is infected in your family, I suppose that the question meant.
Yeah, if I may add, yeah, obviously, as Dr. Wong says, if you're category 1, category 2, pretty much self-contained. So make sure you cut down your sugar, cut down your junk food, minimize your intake. Possibly, if you can do therapeutic fasting, take vitamin D, take vitamin C, take zinc, right? Zinc, which we know seems to block the AACE2 receptors in the nose, where the virus can hook and get into your system. You can look at taking colostrum, which is got immunoglobulins. You can look at going out and getting sunlight. You can look at light exercise where you sweat. Look at hot bath, sweating, right? Of course, a lot of rest, right? And making sure that you take very high quality protein, glutathione. You can buy N-acetylcysteine in the pharmacy. These are things that you can do, right? That help your body improve immunity, easily, right? They are not non-medical in approach. They're all nutritional and working with nature. And you are part of nature. You cannot escape that.
Anis, can I just comment on one thing very popular out there? It's a question that would an unvaccinated person who gets COVID and recover gets natural and permanent immunity? So the
Yes.
answer to this question, this is a question that's been asked around a lot. Because there's a lot of push towards the drive force towards vaccination. So people must understand that when you are infected naturally, you will also get natural immunity. So then you are technically protected. You are technically protected against the virus, where your body has a vast abilities to maneuver and pin down the virus itself. So there is options of natural immunity and there's option of the vaccine. But one has to understand one thing. If you take the case today, if I may say, the category 2 is 2%. 98% of them belong to category 1 and 2. 98% of them belong to category 2. So some of you might think like, hey, it's only 2% of the population. But let me tell you that if it's 2% of the population of Malaysia, means that 640,000 people would need category 4 and 5 care. That has to be also factored in. So people have to understand they need to draw the line right. When you put the numbers in, 640,000 people, are you willing to lose 640,000 people? Or do you have a healthcare system? Do you have intensivists? Do you have all of this to protect? So there needs to be a right drawing of the line. So when you put the numbers out, you think, oh, look, what if it was 0.1%? What if it was 0.2%? That is the numbers that we need to go. The lesser the fatality, the better the healthcare system. That's when we need to look. And this is one thing that I think Dr. Rajan, Dr. Wong, and agree myself again. We believe that the holistic approach, where we have there is a reactive medicine and there is preventive medicine. Unfortunately, there is no nationalized system with preventive medicine. There is no like in the Ministry of Health. There is a wellness department. There are wellness doctors sitting down in the hospital. There are wellness doctors. There's a wellness department looking into wellness approach. No, it's all about reactive. Surgery, drug, and clear the load as fast as we can. That's the problem.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
we'll do one more question. Time is running out. Thank you for all the questions from the attendees. We'll shoot one more question and then we'll open up this question. Go ahead, Serena.
Yeah, so we have a question for Joseph. I think the question was for Dr. Rajan.
Dr. Rajan.
Now, what are the 3 basic amino acids plus one more items that Dr. Rajan mentioned that can increase our body glutathione level? Can you re-mention it? Thanks.
Yes. So there's a patented formulation of 3 amino acids: cysteine, glutamic acid, and selenium as a catalyst. This is clinically proven. It's been shown to kill the Zika virus, for example. There have been some work done on dengue, right, which are all viral in nature. And what it does, and we can do blood studies to show your glutathione goes up. What it does is it boosts glutathione production, right? And that is sold in in any pharmacy as a brand called 45, FORTI 45. It's available as sachet for adults and as a chewable for children. And we take it every day. My kids and I take it every day, because it constantly replenishes your immune system.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Rajan. I think we have come to the end of our tonight's session. All right.
Thank you, speakers, for sharing your views. It was certainly an informative session for all of us. Unfortunately, we do apologize to the audience that we are unable to share your questions. However,
are there a lot more questions, Anis?
There are a lot more questions.
A lot of questions, actually.
But however, we will
Can the panel maybe stay for 5-10 more minutes and answer these few more, because
yes, if the panel don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's make faster answers. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Let's shoot up a few more questions. So.
Okay, 1 second. Let me just go through this. Okay. what type of zinc supplement is best for absorption, for example?
Well, first of all, is zinc is available in a lot of food. Zinc is available in seafood. Zinc is available in egg, especially farm eggs, chicken eggs, right? So, but if you want zinc that is highly absorbed, then people look at what is called biogenic zinc or biological zinc, which is available in food. But also there are various zinc formulations that are sold in pharmacies, where you have zinc, you have chelated zinc, right, which is better absorbed. But if you take end organs, like for example, if you make a soup from chicken liver, for example, it's rich in zinc, highly absorbed zinc.
I just want to add, in ginger, it is very high in zinc too.
Yes, correct.
Ginger has got a broad spectrum therapeutic purpose, which is not being noticed or not emphasized on. Don't underestimate our Malaysian ginger.
Zinc,
ginger,
turmeric, even onions, garlic are all rich in zinc.
I'm talking about that it has been well researched.
Yes. Right. Up next question. We have from Nelly Chin. Can you give details on how the virus progressed from day 1 till day 14 of infection? Her concern is to prevent, infected person, so to not progress to stage 3 of infection, which is the lungs infections. She would like to know more on this area.
This is a very important question.
So we're open to all doctors who would like to address this question for Nelly Chin.
Dr. Wong will be very good with this.
Like how Dr.
Actually, the answers have been spoken already. Yes. When you are already infected, okay, you test positive, or rather somebody in your family or your colleague in your office tested positive and you suspect you also have it. So either you go for the test or you have not gone for the test, but you already in the next few days, next 4-5 days or so, you start to have mild symptom. Okay, how do you from day 1 to until you don't want to be hospitalized? Okay, same thing. When you already know whether tested or not tested PCR, then with the symptom, you help yourself. We talk so much about diet, cleansing diet, alkaline diet, a lot of juicing, therapeutic fasting. Therapeutic fasting means not to say close your mouth and don't eat anything. No, you eat the very healthy, light, easily digested food, cleansing diet, alkaline diet, fruits and vegetable broth and all that. I would depart slightly from Dr. Rajan. I would discourage high protein diet, except for the beans and lentils of the vegetable source. But pranayam, breathing exercise, qigong, and don't forget, we talk so much about arming your white blood cells, which is vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc. All these are specific for against this COVID-19. So these are some of the things that you can do. And if you do it right, and if you're reasonably healthy and avoid the sugary food, you should not advance from category 1 to category 3, 2, Absolutely. Or even 3, 4, 5. Should not Absolutely. At all.
Absolutely.
And you don't need clinical trial to show that. We have got years and years of experience to tell us all that. You don't need RCT. Come on, people.
I think there is a confusion, right? From the question from FT, he wants to know that is the new variant actually caused by spike proteins? Can anyone explain to this audience on that?
Okay, the answer is very simple. The answer is no. There could be mutation of the spike protein, but caused by the spike protein. Because spike protein is just one of the key characteristics of the virus itself. So I think that answers the question. We can go to the next question.
Yeah.
All right.
Is there like a personal question from me? Is there an end to all what's happening now with the current situation? If yes, how far are we looking at? A year, 2 years?
Yes, but looking at the situation where it depends on the national narrative, what strategy are you using? I have written articles, we have issued statement. It must be a holistic strategy together to complement the vaccine strategy. It's not vaccine strategy should not be a standalone. And that has been our official stand for the last how many months, or close to a year ago. And we have been writing articles on this. Everybody must work together. And if so, then yes, we can bring to a conclusion of this, the scourge of this epidemic.
Right. Okay, I've read some articles, some scientific journals also in regards to COVID studies, where it says one of the way to prevent or manage COVID is to do like mega mass testing. So how does this mass testing, like how does it manage COVID that well? Countries like Slovakia, some in South America. So those countries are doing quite well in managing COVID. So is that being done? Do we need to do that in Malaysia? Mega mass testing?
Again, mass testing is just one aspect of the COVID control. It is not the all answer to it. It has to come back to what we have been talking. Yes, you control. You test to target, and then you search, and then you contain, you treat. Okay, but the other aspect of it, to tell the populace that we have to eat healthily, that is other aspect. Then of course there's also the narrative of the whether you want to bring in ivermectin or not. That is what part of what we have been asking for. But of course it is the authorities' decision. So if you put in all this whole package together, plus testing, mass testing to identify, to isolate, to quarantine, and to treat the specific detected group, yes, we can overcome this epidemic.
I mean, just to add to what Anis asked, testing is a very important way because you identify those who are ill and you quarantine them. You don't lock down everybody. Right? If you've got 100,000 people there in the room, right? You don't lock them all, because when you do a lockdown, you assume everybody is positive, which is wrong. You do a test to find out who is negative. You take them out. The rest of us can go to school, go to work, and make Malaysia great again. Why do you lock down everybody? And lockdowns don't work. We've seen it. We have now riots in Melbourne going on right now as we speak, because people get fed up. After a while, it's called pandemic fatigue, right? You don't mind the first lockdown. You're already fed up at the second lockdown. By the time you're saying this is not working, right? Because when you lock down, you assume everybody is positive and keep them indoors. That's not the objective. The objective is to find out who is positive and isolate them, quarantine them. The rest of us can go to work, can go to school, can go and have our sport, right? So that is why testing is important, because it allows you to pick up who is carrying the virus and isolate them, so you break the virus chain of replication.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Rajan. Now, there are so many natural alternatives for us to boost our immunity. There's a rising questions among the public, However, why some people experience low immunity after vaccination? Maybe Dr. Roland or other doctors can explain on that aspect.
Can we take this as this will be the last question for tonight? So the question from the audience, which Serena shared. What was it, Serena?
Yeah, why some people experience low immunity instead after the vaccination? They do not understand why.
Yes.
So I think I will just simplify it very simply to understand that. Again, we're going to go back into the basics to understand the as I said it again and again, the innate and the adaptive. Maybe some individuals are looking at the adaptive immune system, looking at the vaccine response. So there could be no development or no response after the vaccine. There could be many factors, whether the thawing of the vaccine was compromised, whether they got a blank shot, many things, many possibilities are there. Okay, we cannot discount that, because maybe in 100 people, maybe 1% did not develop any form of antibodies. That is possible. We cannot neglect that. So the only way to look at that is test and tell, and then look into other options. Maybe they need to use a different platform of a vaccine. to inoculate and see whether they develop an immune response. But again, the innate, which is your white blood cells, are highly responsible also to develop a response. But if most people are looking at the adaptive immunity, then I highly recommend that when you have done a vaccination, where you've done an inoculation, you want to wait for a couple of weeks to see whether you have built a response system. You want to see what's your count like, whether you develop a count or you do not develop a count. Because what is important, again, is not the vaccine certificate. Again, it is your immune system, whether you develop a natural immunity. But what people are looking at the moment is accessibility of the herd going around here and there. So that has become the shift of paradigm. Rather than looking at their health, but rather looking at the perks of, if I get inoculated, I can go out to the and dine in. I can go out, I can cross country, I can go and see some relative who is far away, I can go and see my wife and stuff. So that is the failure, because we have failed to educate people in terms of understanding what the immune system is all about. Because what we need, this is not a national vaccination program. This is a national immunization program. Simple. Go back to the tajuk, go back to the frame, and ask the question: what do you want to achieve there?
All right. Thank you, Dr. Roland, Dr. Rajan, and Dr. Wong for sharing your views. Now, seems like strengthening own immunity is the most important of all. Okay, what was mentioned was zinc, glutathione, neem, vitamin D, vitamin C. Now, even practicing qigong and many more. Right. It was certainly an informative session for all of us. Now, thank you for all the audience for joining the webinar. Right. And thank you for all your comments and questions.
Yes. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned and look forward to the announcement of the lucky draw, to the lucky draw winners on our Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We'll also be having the next webinar, so you can see. We'll share that details also on our Facebook, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So that's all for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, and good evening to everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you, speakers. Good evening. Stay safe and drive safe. Bye-bye.
Okay.